Speaking on the David Pakman show, Kluwe said that he does believe there is a problem with games journalism. He also suggested a first course of action for dealing with it. It caused me to think, and I'm going to share what it caused me to think.
If you have a problem with ethics in game journalism, that is a perfectly fine position to have. You can have that position. We will not oppose that. I mean, me personally, I agree. There are problems with ethics in game journalism. I think you should go after the developers first because they're the ones who cause it, rather than the indie game studios and the game journalists themselves because they're just reacting to what's being provided to them.
This is in very stark contrast to my own position on this issue. I believe that 100% of failures to uphold ethical standards of journalism are down to journalists failing to uphold ethical standards, and that the responsibility doesn't lie on a journalist's subject to not corrupt them, but rather on a journalist to not be corrupt. In fact, I think that's a key part of their job. That's how they're a journalist. That's the point of their existence. If they require that other people don't try to corrupt them, otherwise they will be corrupt, then they're not a journalist. That's just the case. And they should be exposed as such. And then maybe take up a job as PR. If we have to look at devs to stop journalists from being corrupt, we're not fighting corruption. We are being games journalists. For fuck's sake, if there is major corruption coming from devs, that is what should be reported on. That's what journalists are supposed to do. Can you imagine if I said, I think there's a problem with the music press? We really need to be looking at bans. After all, journalists just react to what they're provided with. I'm going to go ahead and say that anyone actually doing that is beyond not a journalist. They are PR, masquerading as someone producing informational content. They're pretty much just producing undisclosed native advertising. Gee, if someone's trying to offer money or put pressure on people to report certain things, that's really in the public interest and we should expose it. If only there was a profession dedicated to doing stuff like that. But nah, I guess that's just what Gamergate has to do. And make sure strangers don't ask too many questions at the same time as you, even to people who've made themselves publicly available on social media, because then that's your fault. Anyway, the dumbest thing in the idea is that devs, or I think he probably meant to say publishers really, that they have a responsibility to not try and fiddle with press. Actually, they have a responsibility to fiddle with press. If they do otherwise, they're actually acting against the interests of the people whose work they're publishing, or if you really did mean devs, acting against their own interests. And if it's up to us to hold devs accountable for any shady things they do, there is no point in journalists existing. We just do it for ourselves. What do journalists do? If we do that, what do journalists even do? If they're not there to act as a protection from the fiddliness of people trying to sell their shit, why do we have them? Why do we have them? Why don't we just talk to them? Go straight to devs. They're all on social media now, just talk to them. It's hard to imagine, but some journalists do have integrity, and they are extremely valuable. The ones that build trust and prove themselves, because they do have to prove themselves. A journalist, really, when it comes down to it, they trade in public trust. And for too long, in niche media, they've been talking about entitled gamers, when actually, it's the journalists who are extremely entitled. They believe they deserve to be listened to and trusted without proving anything. And yeah, maybe it's partly our fault for not calling them out and criticizing their standards sooner, but we're here now. And I think making videos is quite fun, so to the people who do hold good standards, enjoy having your competition torn to pieces on the regular. To my fellow gamers, as cheesy and horrible and pretentious as that sounds, I hope you decide to start making videos and being critical as well. Let's create an atmosphere where only good journalists can actually survive, or at the very least, let's have some fun with the trash they try to feed us. But, as always, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.